Hey, good morning, students. It is Monday, June 7th, and I'm really excited to make a little video announcement for you, trying to navigate and help facilitate and communicate some of the expectations of the course, and then also some of the things that have been going on in my mind and what I've been thinking about as I'm preparing to help guide you through this course of leadership. And so I'm outside right now. I'm in my sit spot, which is a concept that I like to do. It's a place that you go every single day for about 5 minutes and just observe what you see. So building your awareness can be a really important part of leadership, and that's an incredible way to do that. So number one tip suggestion today, get yourself a sit spot, go outside, making sure even though it's hot and it's the summertime, get out at least a little bit. Super healthy for you. And then the other thing is, eat some food. Eat some really good food, right? Eat some healthy food. I know a lot of you like to cook, and so do I. It's a big passion of mine. And I really like to make salads in the summer, and especially from the community garden. So I have some nibbles from the garden, some salad, but I also have all sorts of things to make it tasty and diverse and interesting, like radishes and apples and almonds and peppers and hemp seeds and some avocados, all these fun things. And so I'm enjoying this meal while I'm also doing a little bit of prepping and planning, reading through this book. This is going to be part of our curriculum this week, Servant Leadership. I actually got this book back when I was working as a canoe wilderness guide for outdoor adaptive sports. This was our module that we had to do before we started. And this is actually one of your modules too. So curious and excited to talk to you all about what it means to be a servant leader. And yeah, whenever I have questions, I always like to open them up to people in my community and just ask around. And so I've been really diving into some of our discussion questions, leaders you admire, how to make decisions, and then what does it mean to be an ethical leader? This is one that really puzzled me, so I asked around a lot, and I collected some of the conversations that I got, and I want to share those with you. So you can find some of those conversations here on our group on the Wonderment. This is a organization, it's a nonprofit that's made this platform to fund and support youth community action. And one of the features here that we can engage in is something called communities. So I went ahead and I made a community for us, and that's the leadership community. So when you select in this community, you can join. We can see our other community members. These are people from our class that have joined already. And then I can seed paths for you. So last week we looked at leadership styles and types and looked basically at just getting to know ourselves. And then, like I said, here's an interview from an expert in the field. This is my friend Valerie, who just went out on a boating trip, 3 weeks with students, and she talks here about some really important concepts like decision-making, empathetic listening. How do you practice that? And what I want you to do is add a response here. So continue to fuel this conversation by adding a response down below. This is also an example of something you can do as an alternate to one of these lessons. So I want to dive in a little bit on the assignments that you have due. So you can see here that we started the course last Tuesday, and so I had on Friday the first 4 lessons be due. There's no penalty for late work, so I just don't want you to get too far behind. And if you're a procrastinator, there's a path for you in our leadership group that you can think about. But here, Master the Monkey Mind, how do you manage procrastination? This is a really interesting TED Talk, and you can add your response right there. So as we dive into what's due, we can see that every day there's one discussion, one prompt, and one module due. And so this right here, I have both Leadership A and B together, but if I focus in just on Leadership A, you can see that there's those 3 different things that you need to do: the module, the prompt, and then here I guess I maybe need to move this. There we go. But and then a challenge. Okay, so zooming in on, for example, so there's sometimes some alternate lessons, which are like me going in and giving you just maybe something else, a different way of interacting with this material. For example, the assignment of a leader that you admire. So if we go through, oh yeah, you guys will only be able to see here modules. You can do a leader that you admire. That was one of our first discussion prompts. And here I gave you an alternate assignment. That's to interview a leader in real life. So then you can see that example of me interviewing Val. And that would be that is a cool thing that you could do as an alternate to writing a research paper on a leader that you admire. Okay, other assignments here that are out are a group you belong to. So another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go out into the field and collect some food for thought. And so at the end of this, if you watch this, I'll zoom in on my food truck community. It is a group that I belong to here, and it's actually really interesting because tomorrow they're going to have a meeting to clarify for the community different roles that people have. So that's cool. I'm going to go and investigate and share with you. That's going to be my case study. It's actually an interesting group because it's a nonprofit church organization for tax purposes so that they can run a donation-based food truck and other events. And so there's different roles of who writes the vision, who determines who runs the food truck, right? Who looks over the funds and makes decisions in that way. So I'll bring you more about that. But let's see. So that hopefully helps clarify assignments that are due. About spend 1 hour a day. We're gonna meet then in Tuesdays and Thursdays in the live lesson. And sometimes what I like to do with reading books is just opening up to a page. So I was flipping through this servant leadership, see what came and spoke to me. But one of the things that came out was building teams and communities. So we have our way to engage on the wonderment in our community, but we're going to actually also get into teams in our class. And so this particular section is talking about different types of leaders. So in your module, they talk about different types of leaders, but here are different types of leaders based on the servant leadership, which is different than your modules. So we have the mediator intervenes and disputes and forms a basis for resolution so the work of the group can go on. The consensus finder is the person who tries to find a different language to restate the idea. The critic finds flaws in a situation that can be destructive, but oftentimes is a gift if that person's able to move the group in a better direction. The meliorator, someone who shows their love for everybody and seeks good feelings. That's a good part. The keeper of the conscience, someone who works to uphold the values of the group. So in our last live lesson, we looked at what are some of your values. The process watcher, someone who observes the overall group process to see if there's any deficiencies and to try to be as efficient as possible. And then the titular head is what they describe it, but basically the appointed chief or the chairperson, someone who decides on routine matters. And so you might only look at that, this is a funny word, titular head, but the head of the group as being like the stereotypical leader, but all those other roles are important. And here it says, if all of those other roles are taken care of, the titular head may be a quite nominal role. And they also note here that basically, if you're not really looking at like the ego-driven aspect of leadership within what it means to be a leader, then you can start to see all these other roles of a leader. So I wanted to share that with you, and we'll dive into more of those roles in our lab lesson tomorrow. But that is another one of your discussion prompts that you can respond to. Right here being under lesson 4. Okay, and then the other thing to wrap up from last week is lesson 3, decision making. Think of a decision that you had to make and what helped you make that decision. All right, so then we'll move on. If you watch this food for thought, ask a couple different people about the ethics, and like to relate it to your own background and your needs. So you'll notice that in this, there is actually someone who's starting their own gym. I know I talked to Caleb about starting his own gym. So I do want to hear from you, and I want to get to know all of you. Make sure that you make a DBA appointment, a welcome call. If we do your welcome call right now, that can count as your first DBA as well. So you'll go to schedule a one-on-one on the homepage, and you'll see that Wednesdays and Fridays are blocked off for that. So make a time. It's all in Arizona time, and I look forward to chatting with you. Yeah, have a great rest of your Monday. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. And make sure you come tomorrow prepared for our live lesson. With a notebook, we'll do some journaling. This, I find, is a really easy way to track my ideas as well, and also to list out like which assignments are due when. So that's a good organizational piece to note. I hope that helps. Yeah, and we'll also, like I said, be getting into teams, excited about that. So here's another book I want to show you, Power Through Partnership. How, this is in particular how women lead better together, which will be a fun thing to do. I'm excited to get you guys in groups and to see you tomorrow.